Hello, and welcome back to the Taylor Seminars, where we talk about how Taylor Swift turns life into poetry. My name is Hannah, and I'm here with the wonderful Exquisite. How are you?
Hi, Hannah. I'm very good. I'm very good. I'm excited to get mad.
So many emotions from you this album, I feel like.
Always, always. And I was just telling you this before we started recording. I'm very protective of this album. I thought I was protective of Midnights, but I could stomach when people were mean to Midnights, I think. I can't when they're mean to this one because it's so vulnerable and so like it's truly some of her best work in a long time, which is crazy because Midnight's is a fantastic album. But I don't know. I just feel like if she's being so open and so vulnerable, especially about things that are really ugly, like openly acknowledging dating a man who was terrible and everyone knew it was terrible, when by all means she could have buried it
Yeah.
because it only lasted a month in the public eye. And then like everything cooled off and she could have buried it, and she was like, well, no, we have to talk about it,
Yeah.
because I was basically about to die. So I don't know, I think she was just so brave on this, and so that's why all of the songs hit me in ways that I get like, even the song that I think is like the quote unquote worst on the album, and that's Thank You Amy, I still understand its point. Sorry, Thank You Amy,
We'll
sorry,
get there.
no, like I don't know. All of them are special to me.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that little rant. That was wonderful. I'll,
Thank
I'll, I'll
you.
I'll do a little bit for myself. I think for this song, I mean, it was we've seen some anger and some, strong feelings from Taylor up to this point. But this one, she is like angry, but also like waving flags and setting off cannons. Like we see it in the
Hmm.
tour where she's literally like dressed up like she's an army. And granted, in that one, she like dies. But like
Hmm.
in this song, she is like a tsunami, or like in Moana when Teka like comes out like her
Yeah.
volcanic form and it's just like I'm going to like that is the Taylor that I
Yeah,
picture.
absolutely. Especially because of the way this song is in the sequence, it coming right after I Can Do With a Broken Heart. She was like, I'm healed and now I'm pissed off because why did that happen?
Yeah.
None of that should happen to me.
So a little bit of background: this was written by Taylor Swift and Aaron Dessner, which probably means she might have heard like a musical idea that he had and she wrote over it, or I don't know. We don't have any like super details about it, but um, it's quite a strong song in her discography with some scathing lyrics. Do you want to start? We're gonna let Exquisite start reading today, and you guys will see why. But so go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Was any of it true, gazing at me starry eyed in your Jehovah's Witness suit? Who the fuck was that guy? You tried to buy some pills from a friend of friends of mine. They just ghosted you. Now you know what it feels like.
Yeah, so we have this opener, which starts out very soft, right? Like she seems
Yeah,
very
and
like,
also deep side too. She's like,
yeah.
and then go.
Yeah, so like it starts almost like LOML Lommel, right? Like a very like um gentle almost
Mm-hmm.
um entrance, right? Where and here we see her looking back at the relationship, like you said, after I Can Do With Broken Heart, and we're seeing her take stock of the destruction that's been left
Yeah,
behind and be like,
yeah.
I need, like, how do I piece this back together?
Mm-hmm. And then there's really just a lot going on in these just few verses. Like opening up with the question of was any of it true is like a lot where you look back and you see like again like that destruction you mentioned, and all you can just ask is like, did you mean any of that you said when you came into my life?
Mm-hmm.
Did you mean it when you promised me marriage and children?
Yeah.
Because you knew that's what I wanted. Did you mean any of that?
And I think this also goes back to a lot of the stuff she's been doing, which is asking her muses questions, right? Like, was any of it true? Is very similar to like, or I guess the consequence of who's gonna, hold you
It,
like me? Who's gonna love you like me?
it's the consequence of sending. I was about to say the consequence of holding my hand in a darkened room,
Oh,
dark room. But I can't even go there right now because I'm gonna start making myself mad already.
yep.
Um, but she like no, this is like you know how in blank space she's like it's gonna be forever, it's gonna go down in flames. She's like looking at the burnt flames, which we know exist in Love and Loss of My Life in LOML. Because there's that fire imagery everywhere, and she's looking at the dust, and she's like, hmm,
I like that. Yeah, it went down in flames, right? Wildest Dreams kind of has that too, right? Like that imagery of like burning it down.
mm-hmm.
And it did. It got burned down. So we have okay. We've just done one line. Let's keep going.
Yeah,
Gazing at me starry eyed. Also very Lommel coded.
yeah.
Uh, I thought it
Thought
was
I was.
better safe than starry eyed. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So she and this coming like directly after the question, she's like setting up asking what was true of the like gazing at me with stars in your eyes in your Jehovah's Witness suit, which says a lot of things. It's like one, your suit looks stupid, but also like you'll hear a lot about like Jehovah's Witness missionaries, and they'll come like knocking on your door, and they seem to always know when the person's at their lowest, so they can come knocking on the door to sell something, and they're always dressed up. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. So then and then we do know that one of her muses did dress up in suits on stage. Um, and now she's looking back and be like, who was that person? Like, you said you looked at me starry eyed, like there was all this hope. And then it goes into like a little anecdote. You tried to buy some pills, but they ghosted you like you ghosted me, like you left my typewriter. You left your typewriter at my place and left.
I do think I love that. That I think that's not that it's funny, but it is funny for her to be like a friend of a friend of a friend who's a drug dealer got back to my friend who got back to my other friend who got back to me, that they knew not to sell you any pills because
Cause
they're just gonna go. They didn't respond to you
yeah, because
because
they
they
knew you were so bad.
yeah,
That's crazy. Like it has spread so
everybody
far. Everybody knew.
yeah
Yeah. I mean, from this, I guess we can kind of touch on it. We can go deeper into it later if you want. Like, I see this mostly as the Matthew Muse, the shorter Muse, who is known to wear a suit on stage and maybe buys pills.
yep.
Um, is that where you would kind of stake this too?
Yeah, I definitely see this as very chunky Matthew, but I do not want to like I've been talking to Hannah with how to say this. But and to me, this is to me, don't get in your comments and being like, obviously this is only Matthew because Joseph was an angel. I definitely see this. There's some undercurrents there where I can say her anger is not just entirely focused on just one person, but this is definitely a more outwardly overtly focused song. Does that make sense? I think there are traces
Yeah.
of the other.
And we'll get to that when we get to that final section too. So
Yes, we
yeah,
will.
so if you're like, why are they referencing multiple? It's just it's
Yeah,
got the vibes of two, even though it's
yeah, that's the
mostly
vibe.
about one.
Yeah. It's interesting in the way she can do it. And I think this is one of like this just shows her prowess as a songwriter, that it can be incredibly specific while also being like, no, it's about that one too.
Yeah. All right, so let me get to the next section. And I don't even want you back. I just want to know if rusting my sparkling summer was the goal. And I don't miss what we had, but could someone give a message to the smallest man who ever lived?
Listen, this is where that like, oh, there's traces of the other one too, where because she just like, I have some questions. I don't even want you. I don't actually want to talk to you, but if we were ever to come face to face, I just want to know if you wanted to ruin my life.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say, like, she's always questioning people, right? Like
Yeah.
literally the song question where she's like, okay, let's, if we could take this back, what, why did you do this? Did you, did you leave your house in the middle of the night? Right? Did
Yeah.
you, did you wish you put up more of a fight? This is a very Taylor thing to do, is interrogate the hell out of this person who she can't understand why they did what they did.
I think this is like one of the first times though where she openly admits that she does not want this person back ever. She never wants contact with them again. Like again in LOML, she's like, I wish I could unrecall. She's never been a person that's like wishes she could not be haunted by memory because that's her whole thing where she uses memories to write her songs or like she's always like talking about memory and like this as if like it's a hollowed thing that's like special, even if like she remembers it all too well. Like she's
Mm-hmm.
always remembering it. But in on Tortured Post Department, she's just like, I wish I didn't even have to write any of these songs. I wish none of this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Mm-hmm.
it's a very new thing for her to be like, I like only I think in would have, could have, should have was she like I miss who I used to, I don't I wish none of it had happened. But here she's also like, no, I I don't want you back. I don't want none of this.
I
And
like
I think
that. And it's crazy too, I think, to what you said at the top of the show. Um, but it inspired some of her greatest works, right? Which
exactly
you could say there's so many of these songs in both the standard and the anthology that could be up there in the Taylor Swift pantheon, and people wouldn't, they'd agree, And as she says, it's the worst men that I write back.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, obviously she had the sparkling summer. We have the sparkling imagery in I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. She was supposed to be at the top of her game after the crazy success of Midnights, after the crazy like Ticketmaster debacle. But he kind of, what'd you say?
I said she was supposed to be the best thing ever.
Yeah, but some
She's
people said
literally
she
not.
wasn't.
Yeah.
They
She
didn't.
wasn't, she's the best thing at this party, and people didn't realize. Um, I will also say it is here where I get so emotional because I'm like thinking back to like the first summer of the Eras tour and comparing it to now in the sense that she's getting her sparkling summer now. Like she gets a redo.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be like themes in TS12, probably, where it's like things she thought she'd never get to do again, she's getting to do. Um, and it just makes me very emotional because it's like, wow, I don't know. It's one of the things I admire about Taylor the most is that she's always willing to continue and to put herself back out there and to not entirely give up. And I think that is so admirable, especially on things as like tender as loving again post like absolute devastation. It's so beautiful to me.
I love that. I love that she gets a second summer to really
I know.
sparkle. Um,
I know.
and what
Oh, wait,
also what?
what were you gonna say? What
No,
were
no,
you
no.
gonna say?
Mine's gonna be a joke, so it's gonna move us on. So you're gonna finish.
Okay. So what I was gonna say was about the sparkling summer, and about Bejeweled as a threat. Because she mentioned it, she said I'm still bejeweled, right? And she sung this before she sung the song before she went back on tour. And I just think it is so telling, interesting, obvious that when something clicked in her mind opening night where she received a whole lot of like unfiltered adoration and like love that was just given to her freely. People paid to just be able to see her because a lot of us missed her so bad. Like there have been no tours um in 3 years, and it's like she got on stage and she realized what she had been like missing. Like she had been, she lives for the applause, but also she lives for like affection. She had been dying, and she started to get color back in her face when she steps on stage and was like, it should not be hard to receive love. I shouldn't be fighting for it."
And I think,
And
go
so,
ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say, and so to have some of that rusted would piss me off personally. If it's like you tried to taint the beginning of this just utterly life-changing tour. And that would piss me off real bad.
Yeah, and going off that perfectly, actually, like the fact that she felt rusty, had the shiniest wheels, now I'm rusting. Like, she already had this kind of idea. And we know from Lover and Miss Americana that she kind of felt like she was already at the peak of what she could be creatively and the peak of what people would want from her. And I do think that through the pandemic and maybe even in her relationships, she kind of felt like, oh, like this part of me that loves the crowd, that loves to connect with people through my music, like, is this hindering my relationship? Is this hindering my life in personal ways? And for her to then go out on stage and be like, no, like, this is what I love and this is what I need and this is what
Yeah.
makes me me,
Yeah.
must have been so like a slap to the face, like,
Yeah.
like awakening for her.
Yeah. Like especially because I think she realized like this is a part of herself that she cannot deny. And if you want to be with her, you need to embrace the shiny, sparkling part that loves to bejewel. Like you need to be able to see it and not use it against her
Yeah.
because it's unfair. It's something she can no longer control. And yes, she wanted it, but there are obviously aspects of it that she did not want. Um, and I don't know. She was doing a lot of labor before, years of labor, even locks and ceilings. Anyway,
Yeah, and I do love at the end of this a message to the smallest man who ever lived, and that can refer to, like, someone who's small is someone who's like, it could be like, you don't have a spine, you're cowardly, you're running away. It also could mean, I think, a little bit about performance of a man in bed. In the Insummation poem, it says he's swinging a sword he could barely lift. And
hmm
I do think that there's a bit of a double entendre there.
Yeah, because she's hilarious.
Yeah. I feel like there's another reference to like performance in a different song, but I don't remember
Yeah,
off the top of my head
probably
right
definitely. I mean, we know again from the song, she's like the only good time she had was when she was doing it herself.
now. Oh, yeah, Guilty as Sin. I
um.
think it's your turn to read.
Oh yes, it is. Okay. You hung me on your wall, stabbed me with your pushpins, in public showed me off, then sank in stoned oblivion. 'Cause once your queen had come, you treat her like and also ran. You didn't measure up in any measure of a man. This is the section I said I had something to tell you, Hannah,
Oh,
that would kind of probably hurt your feelings.
oh,
Okay, okay. So, um, as I was writing and I was just doing some considering and there's obviously the part in this song where she's like I would have died for your sins. We'll get that later. But she literally talks about how she was crucified right here and he crucified her. You hung me on your wall and stabbed me with your pushpins. So not just like a creature for exhibit, but also literally like a crucifixion that just happens in this song. I wish you guys could see Hannah's face.
oh my gosh.
I know.
Oh my gosh. And like,
I know.
it can seem like the idolization of a person, which is very like, I think not just surface level, but that's what she's saying, right? Like, you've
Yeah.
idolized me, but then within the idolization, you actually hurt me so excruciatingly,
Yeah.
like a crucifixion.
Yeah. And also, like, for those of you who don't know, when Jesus was crucified, he had to carry his own wood thing up to Calvary, and then they hung him on it, and then he was stabbed in the side.
Oh, and
So
I would say first he got stabbed by nails to be hung up
yeah,
on there,
he was hung. He was literally stabbed in his hands and
or
feet,
like, yeah,
ankles,
wrist ish.
his ankles.
Yeah.
Um, so he was stabbed, and then he was stabbed in the side. So literally, the usage of like she was hung and then stabbed, and then in public showed off. Which, if you know anything about biblical things, like that was a whole thing as well.
Yeah, there
It
was a
happened.
crowd.
everybody came to see this. Yeah. So just those three verses, she's like, not only were you treating me as an idol and then like hurting me, but you also were showing me off to the public. Also you were crucifying me. And also the hanging on the wall and the stab with pushpins can also be seen as like an etymology thing where they take like bugs, especially those have been like dead or whatever, and they like pin them down in little cases. I'm sure you guys have seen it with like butterfly displays. And they hang them up for people to see and look at all the special fun parts of the bug. Um, yeah, I'm actually getting upset.
That's crazy. I think because in both interpretations, like whether like entomology, the bugs, or the crucifixion and like metaphor imagery, you have this innocent being, right? Both this bug butterfly was innocent, Jesus was innocent, and yet
Mhm.
they are hung out to dry, right? They are displayed with all their parts exposed and yeah, and I wonder
And
if
they
that
continue to be tortured because
yeah
you stabbing me post stabbing me again.
yeah, and I feel like it's really shows like the she understood the intense scrutiny she was under
Yeah,
and not feeling like she was defended or cared for, but instead just continued to be allowed to be stoned, I guess. Like
yeah,
people could
yeah.
throw stones at her.
Yeah. And then what makes it worse is when we go back to guilty as sin, she goes, they're gonna crucify me anyway. But then in this song, it's him doing the crucifying, which
Boom.
is, I know, which is an option she didn't even, that wasn't an option that she thought would happen in her wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
That was not an option. She didn't think that it would be her lover that left her to dry in the public sphere.
Yeah, like he did it, and then but then when that guilty and sin prediction did come true, when other people did it, he just sank into stoned oblivion. He was like, meh. He ate seven
Thank
bars of chocolate.
Yeah. Ate 7 bars of chocolate. And then what's like interesting is that the stone, like in biblically, stoning was like killing people who had sinned. But he is not taking stones for her, right? Instead, he's stoning himself into oblivion. Like he doesn't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I also thought of guilty as sin and the crucifixion story. Like, what if I rolled the stone away, right?
Mhm.
Like, and also like the stone that's when that's is the same stone that is in the Jesus story where they cover the tomb. Like, that language is all connected. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep. Those 4 lines of it's really cool, but really angering. Especially because the line that comes right after is because once your queen had come, and once again, I'm looking at this so much like Girl of His American Dreams or Go to King of My Heart, where she's like, salute to me, your American queen, right? Or I'm queen of sand castles he destroys.
Hmm.
So all of it, she's like, once I showed up and like once I was apparently the best person to you, like you treat me like an also ran. Um, and for those who don't know, an also ran is like the biggest loser in a race. Go Team USA in the Olympics. Just to throw that out there. I hope we get gold. We are gotten some gold in track. Anyway, and then she goes on to say, you didn't measure up in any measure of a man.
Another Swiftism.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that what I think also is the double entendre. You have the you like you weren't a man, like you did like whatever it is to be a man, like you did not meet those standards because you were such a terrible person. You ghosted me, you hung me up with push pins, but also the maybe you're could not perform.
Yeah. And also smallest man.
Yeah.
So she's like totally title drop again, but in a fun way.
I also going back a little bit to
Yeah.
you know, once your queen had come, you'd treat her like an also ran. I think like it's still kind of like biblical imagery, I feel like, because like Jesus was supposed to be the king, right? The king of the kingdom of God. He was like
King of Kings.
Yeah, so then she's, I think, switches it to queen, right? Like Jesus did get this amazing entrance into Jerusalem like a few days before he died, where he was like people were cheering for him, chanting his name, like King of the Jews, all hail, things like that. But then a few days later, the same crowd, turned around and crucified him, and so I
Yep.
think she really feels this kind of like this turning of the world against her.
Yeah. And again, it's not the world because she expected it. It's the fact that it's her lover. That
And on that note, I think this one could very easily be a little bit of a mixing of a muse.
yeah.
You're waiting for me to say that, huh?
No, yeah. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, because like you could say that even in her previous, the long term relationship, it was, you know, she couldn't be who she wanted to be, hung up on these by these push pins.
Yeah. And also she never imagined any of it would fall out the way it did.
Yeah, she thought he'd had her back.
Yeah. 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 No, yeah. Even the stoned oblivion applies to the other one because we know, according to Taylor, like, I don't know, the moon was high. Like your friends were the nights that we first met. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Is it my turn to read the next section?
it is, it is, it is,
Okay.
it is.
Were you sent by someone who wanted me dead? Did you sleep with a gun underneath our bed? Were you writing a book? Were you a sleeper cell spy? In 50 years, will all this be declassified and you'll confess why you did it? And I'll say, good riddance, because it wasn't sexy once it wasn't forbidden.
Damn.
Exquisite is holding her face in her hands, so we're just going to give her a moment.
Damn, because it's like that whole, first of all, we have to talk about the way she sings it because what happens, that little voice modulation thing, that is, it is her getting really close to the mic and them not recutting the audio. So in a professional recording studio, if you get really like all up on the mic, it'll do that sound and you're supposed to redo it. But she was so mad. They kept that cut, which I think
Uh,
was smart.
so that's what you're thinking is probably what
Yeah.
happened in the recording booth. It's just like
Yeah.
she did this amazing take that was very, like a little distorted because of where she was standing.
Mhm.
And then now she like
Yeah. She basically tried to eat the mic. Like she got all upon it.
Exquisite literally picked up the mic and like put it in front of her, like her lips. That was pretty funny. But yeah, so we got the little chorus back, but then and then we go like this bridge outro thing, where she is just spitting like bullets like into the mic.
Yeah. Like
And
she does not hold back.
yeah, these are no longer questions. This is an interrogation.
Hmm. And I like how the lyric video, because she won't give us a music video, is just like what it is like declassifying different words. So things have been redacted. And it's like falling out on the music video, but it's like the lyrics are in all caps and they're really loud on the page that she's just yelling.
Yeah,
Were you sent someone who wanted me dead?
yeah. Like that's
Same
that.
way to
Like that's like I feel like it's crazy because it's like that's how much it hurt that she has to think of these fantastical scenarios as to why would someone even think to do this, right? Like it's got to be so extreme. It's like, were you an assassination attempt? Were you like the keep a gun underneath our bed is very like James Bond. There's like a famous like James Bond movie where it's like, James, do you still keep a gun underneath your your pillow or whatever? And it's like because he always wants to be prepared to like kill somebody. Um, yeah,
hmm. Yeah, no, especially because like it really is like who would want to hurt me so bad? It's so unconceivable that this would happen to me, that and then that somebody would just leave, like who, it had to be a crime. It had to be a scheme. Someone had to have set me up
yeah.
because there's no one I trusted like this would do this. So someone else had to have done this.
Yeah. Or you're just a mean person trying to write a book.
Yeah.
or you've been brainwashed into some sleeper cell spy thing, and it'll
Yep.
be declassified in 50 years. There's like a rule in like the US federal government that after a certain number of years, if the danger has passed or whatever, they're able to declassify things. So it's like, yeah.
And then she's like, and you'll come back and say, like, this is exactly what happened. This person sent me. And then she'll just be like, I don't care. Good riddance. Thank God.
Yeah, like I'll finally have my answer, but also like it's like over. Like this was,
Yeah.
yeah. I wish she could use a strong. She could have used a stronger word than good riddance.
Said, go. She could have said, do some other. She could have said a lot, but I think good riddance is interesting to do because it's like, you know why I think this is interesting? Is that good riddance implies a level of detachment where it no longer hurts you, where it's just like, okay, good riddance. Like,
You're like washing your hands clean or like like brushing it off.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you're like cursing them out at that point, then it still hurts you. And she's like, in 50 years, this won't hurt me.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't sexy once it wasn't forbidden. Like she
I'm
was.
gonna tell you. What were you gonna say?
No, no, no. You go.
I was just gonna say that line does my head in because of the way she sings it specifically. The way she says sexy sounds so utterly devastated. Where because it's like part of her is like, you were just using me for sex. And once I was no longer interesting to you, and once this was no longer forbidden, once it was no longer you sending me text messages, or once it was no longer us playing cat and mouse, then I just no longer matter. And
Yeah,
it just,
I was just a game to you, right? Like
yeah.
once you were able to catch me, then it was like, all right, like I was just in it for the chase.
And then it's like, when someone knows you and they know you and they know like just how desperate you've been for affection or love or anything, and then they go and use that against you and then leave
Mm-hmm.
and it's no longer fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's evil. It's genuinely evil. It's evil.
Yeah.
And there's, I have words I could say, but if I speak, be in prison.
All right, you got to read the last section then.
Okay.
Guys, we literally changed the order so that Exquisite could read this last part. So let her collect herself. Deep breath.
Okay.
Don't talk too loud into the mic, okay? Like Taylor. Just
Oh yeah.
keep it good.
No, I would have died for your sins. Instead, I just died inside, and you deserve prison, but you won't get time. You'll slide into inboxes and slip through the bars. You crashed my party and your rental car. You said normal girls were boring, but you were gone by the morning. You kicked out the stage lights, but you're still performing, and in plain sight you hid, but you are what you did. And I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive the smallest man who ever lived.
And this is where we get that epic scene in the Eras tour.
Oh my gosh. There's nothing like, I don't know, something about being in that stadium, singing that verse. There's genuinely no words to encompass that experience. And like I like pray that because she's filmed this set, she'll add it to the Eras Tour movie and like re-release it in theaters so that people can get together and just, I don't know, it's cathartic.
Love that.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the Jesus comparison. I would have died for your sins.
Hmm.
And she wanted to do this sacrifice. She wanted to, I'll put my reputation, my life on the line for you. But instead, I just died.
Yeah. And what's interesting, and this is where the double muse comes in on here, because this is also like, it goes back to So Long London, where she's like, you sacrificed me. But among that, she was waiting. She's like, I would have died for your sins. I would have done anything. I would have sacrificed anything for our relationship, and including like my own sense of self as an artist. Like if I need to pull back, if I need to do a whole lot of labor, I will do it. But instead, like, I don't know, how can you love someone you can't tell is dying? Like I died inside and I'm just getting color back into my face, but it's fine. It's not fine at all, actually. I'm pissed. No, but it's like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
and
I
it,
instead of just
yeah, and what he did was so bad. What muse, double muse, whatever, that you deserve prison. You did a crime,
yeah,
but
it was so evil.
you won't get time because this was just breaking my heart and not like breaking and entering.
Yeah. You deserve prison, but you won't get time. You'll slide into inboxes and slip through the bars, which is so funny because this bar's working on two different levels. It's like he'll be he's gonna get away and he's gonna be messaging some woman he found on the internet. Um, and he'll be in and out of bars, but also he'll slip through the prison bars. That's why he won't get time.
Oh,
Like he's
there's
gonna
one more. He'll slip through the bars like music bars.
exactly. Ah, Hannah, exactly.
Love it.
Yeah. Also like bars of other people's, I don't know, garden gates.
Okay.
I don't know. Um, and this is the next line. I just think this is the alternate ending of that damn song Betty and Cardigan and the trio of girls, and Augustine and Betty ditched James because you crashed my party and your rental car. Like it's not just you destroyed my party. You didn't just show up at my party. You destroyed it, ruined everybody's day. And then you crashed the car you rented because you're a terrible person. And also the rental car implies it's like you were never here for the long run because if you were, you would have bought a car. No, you rented a car. And then you can't even respect other people's property.
No, this line is crazy because we talk a lot about Taylor Swift and her writing about crashes.
Yeah.
Loving him is like driving a new Maserati down a dead end street crash, right? And there's just, and obviously, like cars are a huge metaphor. It's literally the same line, right? Where um, we have this idea of like a violent collision that is, oftentimes could be avoided, but when
Mhm.
they happen, they can create such a mess and whiplash and insurance and all those terrible things that come along with it. And so to have a crash means that there's, again, we've talked about this even the beginning of the song and throughout these episodes, like the violence, the violent undercurrent under all these songs. It
Mhm.
continues with this crash.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And then the part on stage where she gets shot, she goes, "You said normal girls were boring, but you were gone by the morning." So he told her that like, and it's probably like she's like, "Oh, there's a lot going on in my life or whatever." And he comforted her by being like, "Well, all of that is boring. It'd be boring to be with someone who didn't have everything going on like you did." So he slid in and like comforted her and told her all these like,
Yeah, you're special.
yeah, told her just how special she was, just to for her to wake up and him to disappear, and
Ghost.
was in warning.
You
It.
holy ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And then kicked out the stage lights, but you're still performing. So stage lights obviously light up, the stage so
Mm-hmm.
you can see the performer. And he rusted her sparkling summer and he kicked out her stage lights so that the lights couldn't focus on her and be on her. And yet he's the one that's trying to he loves having all this attention and doing it, performing in his own way.
Yeah, but you're still performing, and it's also like not just performing for her anymore, but performing to everyone else that it's like I am a normal human being and not an evil person that knows what they did to me but going on like nothing happened or that like we didn't happen.
Ooh, and which makes sense with the next line, and in plain sight you hid, right? Like you
Yep.
just moved on with your life like nothing happened. Like there are no ripples, no
Like you can
like,
still talk about me, like you can still be normal. Like you didn't just ruin my life.
but she knows you are what you did, right? Like it reminds me of in the end of Lover where she's like, I want to be known for the things I love and not the things that I hate or I'm afraid of, right? But
Hmm.
you are known, you should be known for the things you have done, sir or
And
sirs.
that's why I didn't mind putting you on blast in this song.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's so you are what you did is so interesting. Like, I don't know, just that phrase because it's typically you'll hear, especially like Taylor has written this phrase before, but in Innocent, where she goes, "Who you are is not what you did," and then she's changed. She's like, "No, you absolutely are what you did."
Ooh.
And if what you did was so terrible, it means you are terrible. And I never ever want to see your face again. And you could pass away and I wouldn't even care. Type anger.
Yeah, no, that reminds me of in her poem, right? Like, never let your heart be broken by the same hand twice.
Hmm.
Yeah, because you are what you did. Let your heart remain breakable. I don't remember the,
Yeah.
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Let your heart remain breakable, but never by the same hand twice.
Yeah. And I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive. Like, I bury hatchets, but I keep maps of where I put them. But I feel like this one's not buried. This one is,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
sticking out. I have a fence
Yeah.
of hatchets.
It's more like she hung the hatchet up and it's there. And because she's like, I'm going to forget, but I'm never going to forget. So there's no name on this hatchet, but the crack that it left in my wall, or like, oh, actually, I have a better metaphor. It's like when you like crash into a building or whatever, if you don't rebuild that building, but you let new things grow over it, like new ivy will grow here, everything will grow here, but there's always going to be this mark and it's going to be there even long after I've forgotten how the mark got there. I'm never going to forgive the person that put it there. The person who crashed my party, it's always like the the damage is always going to be there
Mm.
and I'm never going to forgive it.
It's like,
And I think it's very powerful to be like I won't forgive you.
yeah, not everyone deserves your forgiveness. And then we have, and then it ends on the smallest man who ever lived.
Mhm.
She's,
Wow.
yeah, no, it's, let's talk about this double muse again because we do know that in the performance she gets, which we, when we were freaking out when she changed the TTPD set on us or added it, I guess, there were two bullets and we all were like, oh my gosh, like there's a light. If you haven't seen the live stream,
Yeah.
there's a light where she gets pierced and you can see her like feel the impact of this bullet, and it happens twice. She gets hit once and then twice, and we were all like, "Oh, because there were two that killed her."
Yep. And it's very intentional. Like the first shot happened I think the first shot happened at
Slide into inboxes, I think.
yeah, something around that part. Either that part or like Crash My Party. I just know the second shot is you said normal girls were boring.
Yeah.
Um yeah, it's very deliberate and on purpose and just fascinating because if we talk about that performance, the entire time she's waving a white flag and she's surrendering on stage and they shoot her anyway,
Yeah. So if you don't
which is like
know,
beautiful.
white flag in any kind of conflict means that we're ready to surrender. They're willing to be taken prisoner. They've laid their weapons down, right? And they're just going to come out. And so in warfare, if someone has raised the white flag and they've put their weapons down, they've come out, to kill them is a war crime.
Yep.
Like, terrible.
Again, deserved crimes. And then you have to imagine that she was hung up and then left there because he ghosted, right? Um, and yeah, I think it's just interesting of like this idea that she felt she was left exposed and vulnerable, and he got to continue like nothing happened while
Yeah.
she continued to take the blame for everything, even.
Yeah, she was. It's like that meme of like the guy who like shoots somebody on stage and it's like, what happened? Like I didn't like what I don't know what happened. Uh,
Exactly.
I think I think that probably like made her spiral even more, right? Like, what do you mean you're pretending like none of this happened and that you didn't promise me cradles and rings?
Yeah. Ugh, ugh. I'm disgusted. And I think Taylor is also just genuinely so disgusted. She's disgusted with herself. She's disgusted with the situation. Also, I would just and this is me defending the double muse as well, because of the ghosting and of that like feeling abandoned. She definitely felt abandoned in the relationship she left because she sings about it in So Long London and other songs. But So Long London's the most obvious because I feel like when I bring up So Long London, everyone's like, yeah, this is obviously just the singular muse, right? So it works as a good touch point to be like, in So Long London, she's like, you left me at the house by the heath. Even though she was the one that had to leave and cut it off, right? She was abandoned first.
Yeah.
So, and there
Yeah.
are themes of abandonment all over this album.
Oh, it's not gonna. We're gonna see it in the Black Dog. We're
Yeah,
gonna see it more everywhere.
all
Um,
over. Just mess. It's like it's actually like hurts. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this seems like such an awkward place to like leave us at the end of this episode. Well, we can say that at the end of the Eras tour performance of this, when she quote unquote dies, is when she does have that little funny theatrical moment with Cam and Jan where they
It's the
revive
bring
her.
the bring Taylor back to life set. And again, I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but I just love the fact that it's not like force Taylor to perform. It's like this is what you need to continue to go on until you can stand on your own without having to perform and fake it.
Yeah,
So we're going to help you. We're going to bring you back to life so that you can get on stage and do what you love to do and which has proven in the past to be something like a life raft, and that your life is not over. Um, yeah. Also, I will say the little in the booklet, uh the handwritten lyric is, and I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive the smallest man who ever lived. So she's like, I can just reinforce this. There is no forgiveness to be found. Do not come up to me and be like, well, I'll tell you exactly why I did it now because I don't even know who are you.
good
But I
riddance.
hate you. Good riddance. I don't know who you are, but good riddance. There is no pining over here. That's done. That's dead. It's never going to happen again. I will never allow you, I will never allow myself to be lured like this again. I know better.
Yeah, it's like Closure 2.0.
Exactly. Exactly. No, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
guess I'm doing. Yeah, I'm doing better. It cut deep to know you right to the bone. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't want your letter.
Yeah. I don't need your closure. And that is the most
Yeah.
powerful thing you could say, right, to somebody who hurt you so badly is like, you know what? Like, I've moved on and I'm doing better than I
Mm.
ever was. And I haven't, I don't have starry eyes are a little different. They're just stars on the top of a Rolls Royce roof.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, and exactly. I don't need your closure, and I don't have to forgive you.
Yeah.
I
That's,
don't have to.
yeah. And we are going to see, looking forward a little bit, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We see the alchemy. And
Hmm.
then we are going to see a beautiful closing track, Clara Bow.
Hmm.
Um, and it's kind of going to show us a little bit of like her mindset throughout her whole career up to this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to think about how I Can Do With a Broken Heart and The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived set us up for Clarabelle, because, and we'll talk about this when we get in Clarabelle, but that being a reflection on fame and how it eats at you, and these two songs back to back being reflections of like how she had no choice but to continue performing when she was down low, and then also how her fame was used against her to like crucify her in the public's eye. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be very fun to get to Clairbow and the Alchemy.
Yeah.
And finally, we're going to have something fun in the Alchemy because that song is hilarious. Genuinely, it cracks me up. Taylor's hilarious.
Love it. Do we have an emoji idea?
Um, I
So,
don't want to say the cross emoji, but I do.
no, we're not gonna do the cross emoji. Okay, what about though? We could do a stone, right? We could do a
Oh, that could
stone,
work.
like any kind of stone rock boulder emoji that you have in your emoji library. We would love to
Yeah,
see. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, this was a fiery one, and I mean, this is I think definitely one where people were hoping it would be in the tour if it was added because they just wanted to scream, sing the bridge outro.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think this is probably one of the most scathing bridge she's written, ever written.
yeah,
Like she does not hold back. She wants this person dead because they were obviously sent by someone who wanted her dead. Um, no, I'm probably gonna tweet lyrics to the bridge right now. So if you are listening and and you're
whenever.
like, oh wait, you tweeted that, just know that's when we recorded it.
This always happens. As soon as we're done with an episode, you'll know when we've done recording because Exquisite's having a spiral over a lyric or two or three.
Yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody. We'll be back with the Happier Alchemy next time, and we hope that if feel some catharsis by also scream singing the bridge outro with Taylor, and we will see you soon.